You ever have the feeling like slowly but surely you're being dragged into the abyss? That no matter what you do, your life's worst decisions will catch up to you in the end. You go in thinking, how bad could it be? When you're too naive to see that this ignorance will get you dragged into an endless pit of suffering. As a person, you can make every good choice imaginable, but all it takes is one bad decision to put you face to face with the Reaper. So that's basically what it was like watching X-Arm. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Rant Look At, where I talk about bad movies and TV and how bad they are. The last episode was on the Lucy movie, which was quite a while ago. But today, though, I will be looking at probably the worst anime that I will ever see in my life. X-Arm. I first discovered this anime when I was looking through YouTube and saw that people were talking quite a bit about it. And by talking about it, I mean roasting the ever-living shit out of it.
He's in 2D. What?
Eyes that other person was talking about? Like the creepy eyes, right? Check that out, man.
Damn! A 2?
So I started up and thought, okay, this probably won't be as bad as people make it out to be. And to my surprise, I was wrong. It's actually worse. X-Arm is the worst thing I have ever seen. And yes, I said the worst thing I have ever seen. I could have used this time to watch actual good anime like Re:Zero and Food Wars. Even a piece of dog shit like the Star Wars Holiday Special has more rewatchability than this.
I can feel my creation. I'm getting your message.
I don't know what this is, but it's kind of hot.
Sometimes when I try to watch a movie or TV show like this, I try to look at the bad and laugh at it. And I did have some amount of success with that. There were certain facial expressions and lines of dialogue that did ironically get a laugh out of me. When looking at the series as a whole though, those little moments of dumb comedy aren't enough to overshadow the pure, unadulterated hatred I have for this anime. My thought is they made this to troll people, and that would make sense because of how utterly pissed off I am. This is the one time that I'm actually glad Crunchyroll ads pop up, because then at least I can remember and see what an actual good anime looks like. When the director and the studio that are handling your show have never made an anime before, chances are you're screwed. This comment on the opening from Bob Kowalski said that,
"This looks like Berserk 2016 and Cyberpunk 2077 on consoles had a baby."
Which, if you ask me, is a very generous statement. For starters, look at these facial expressions. They look awful. Look at these dull, expressionless faces and tell me they did not copy the facial animations of Mass Effect Andromeda. They are basically the same facial animations, except somehow they look worse in the show. How do you get cucked by Mass Effect Andromeda? All these faces are poorly animated and don't capture the emotion of the characters, which, sucks because the voice actors in the show are actually pretty decent. What's worse is when they have 2D characters interact with 3D characters for no apparent reason. I mean, come on, the 3D models already look like crap. But can you at least keep the crap consistent? These characters don't have the same dimension whenever they talk to each other. It just looks weird. I mean, sure, it is possible to have this work out like in Spider-Verse, with characters such as Penny Parker and Spider-Ham. But that mainly works because it makes sense in the movie, and it actually looks good. This is just badly drawn 3D characters talking to badly drawn 2D characters in bland, stale shots with boring, uninspired backgrounds. If you think this looks good, then you must have been dropped on your head as a child. Part of the animation that even comes close to decent is the fight scenes, and even then they still have issues. Sure, it might distract you at first glance, but then you realize that their punches don't really hit. The best part of fight scenes is when you can really feel the impact behind the attacks. It just seems like they're hitting each other with pillows and covering up with sound effects and bad stock effects. We will get to those in a bit. For now though, let's talk about the plot. And by the plot, I mean what the fuck is happening on screen. So this dude, Akira, which is the most stereotypical anime name by the way, hates electronic devices and wants to move on with his life like his older brother did. He then gets hit by a truck and dies. I'm not kidding, he actually gets hit by a truck and he dies. His consciousness is then somehow transferred into an AI system, which is retrieved 16 years later in 2030 by a woman and her android partner. I'm not making this up. If you look up the plot of X-Arm on any site, I guarantee you it will say the exact same thing I did with partially more important details, but that's basically what you get. Plot is essentially just speedrun, so we don't get to know these characters or the setting that they're in right now. And because of that, it gives you a headache. Also, the characters suck ass. They're awful characters. They have very bad personalities. By which I mean they have no personality. Or if they do, I can't tell because of the damn facial animations! They're the most boring, stupid, cliche, pathetic, uncharismatic people I have ever seen. Even the ones I can stand have more character in them as opposed to character. I can't remember any of their names aside from Akira, and that's because he shares a name with a ton of other anime characters that make him look like a block of cardboard. Although this is all awful, definitely, without a doubt. The worst part of this series, the worst part of this fucking stupid anime is the editing. I thought in the beginning they made a ton of understandable mistakes, like having people who had not made anime before. So in the first episode, I could kind of accept it. Barely, but it was passable for me. However, by the second and third episode, I then realized they either didn't care anymore, or the show was now being run by a bunch of monkeys on LSD. For instance, you might be wondering why some scenes have some very weird touches to them. Now, if you were wondering, that is not an effect I added, that is in the show. Someone at Crunchyroll actually looked at this and thought,
"Ooh, green screen explosion effects, that's so cool! How about we add green screen smoke, or even better, green screen fire, the fans will love that shit!"
This is the most amateur thing I've ever witnessed. These guys didn't even have either the talent or the budget to animate a simple explosion. Even without the green screen effects, there are still a ton of issues in the show, like these weird zoom-in shots, characters not moving and looking like cardboard, and these weird blurred effects whenever they have two characters of the same gender make out, which is put in for no apparent reason. All of this adds up not just to a bad show, but to a disgrace to every anime in the world. There are barely any redeeming qualities, the animation is horrible, the characters are awful, the dialogue is generic, the pacing is atrocious, and the effects are ass. I feel bad for the voice actors and the generally good people involved in this show. I'm sure they would have done great if they were given the right material, but this show definitely screwed them over. At the end of the day, if you like laughing at unintentionally funny content, you might get some enjoyment out of this, but for me, the bad definitely outweighs the ironic enjoyment. This is not The Room. This is a disaster without an artist to guide it in the right direction. So, with all that said, I'm going to give this series an F+.